Good evening, everyone. It's February 1st, 2022. This is our Touch for Torah with Congregation Va-Dor and Rabbi Barry Silver. Thank you all for attending. We're excited to talk about the Torah Parsha, Exodus, TERUMAH, which means gifts. Take it away, Rabbi Barry. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much, Sharon, for organizing this. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. The word terumah comes from a root word, ram, which means to elevate, to lift up. It's also used in Hindu. They have Rama, which means one who is elevated, and terumah means to lift up, and it also came to mean a donation or a gift offering that was made for a holy purpose, a gift for the construction, in this case, of the synagogue or the tabernacle. The tabernacle is known as Mishkan. Mishkan is related to a Hebrew word which you may have heard of, Shekhinah. Shekhinah means a divine presence, and it's feminine, indicating that to our ancestors, this creative power that is behind everything, this cosmic power, which is so well demonstrated in Suzanne's background, which is beautiful. This power is neither masculine or feminine. It embraces all genders, all people, all living things, the entire cosmos. It's vast. And so it was referred to as Shekhinah, and from that root comes Mishkan, the place where the Shekhinah dwells. Now, we've had some very interesting passages, great storylines, great lessons. And then as you get further into the Torah, it becomes a little less exciting. There's a whole bunch of things about sacrifices, rituals, how to slaughter animals, all these details about constructing the sanctuary, which aren't particularly interesting. And so I'm going to refer you to a line that my father used to say. This Texas oil millionaire had a motto: if you don't strike oil after 15 minutes, stop boring. So I'm not going to go any more than 15 minutes because I don't want to bore you with all the details of these arcane rituals about how the sanctuary is constructed. Other than to tell you, first of all, that it's rather interesting that the Jews who were slaves wandering in the desert somehow had all these materials, acacia wood and fine linens and gold and silver and tools and crafts and violet and red crimson, all types of stuff. Somehow wandering in the desert, they came up with it and were able to construct the tabernacle in the desert with tools that somehow they were able to find along the way. But that's the skeptical part of me. Let me tell you what I believe is very significant in the passage. Later on, we're going to get to something very significant about terumah, but it's not yet here. That's in a further passage, a further sedra. There's a line in this passage. It says as follows: Asuli mishkan v'shachanti b'tocham. Asu is related to a word that you might have heard, oseh, like oseh shalom. Oseh shalom means make peace. Asu is the imperative form, third person plural. What that means in English is it's the command form for make. Asu li, make me, mishkan. That's the word that I referred to before from Shekhinah. It means a tabernacle or a holy place or a sanctuary. Asuli mishkan v'shachanti, and that's another root from mishkan. And I will dwell, my spirit will dwell, b'tocham, within you. Actually, I misspoke. Asuli mikdash. Mikdash is from Kodesh, a holy place. Asuli mikdash, make me a holy place. V'shachanti, that's the spirit, Shekhinah, and my Shekhinah will dwell b'tocham. usually it's translated among you. Now, it could be construed like maybe they made a mistake. Construct a tabernacle for me and I'll dwell within it. That normally would be how it would be described, but it's the plural. B'tocham is plural, so it's among you, plural. I came up with a different explanation for it. I mean, that's a good passage and a good message. If we create a holy place, then a Holy Spirit will dwell among us. But b'tocham also means, and I think more accurately means, within you, not among you, within you. So now it translates, construct for me a sanctuary and I will dwell within you. Now we can get quite an important, powerful message from that. If our hearts become a sanctuary or a holy place, if we make of our heart a suli, if we make of our heart a holy place, if we make it holy, if we get rid of all the negativity and the anger and the hostility, make your heart a holy place, then a divine spirit will dwell within you. That is a passage with a very important message. So if you sift through all the arcane rituals and hone in on this, now you have something that can guide us and motivate us throughout the week. What is it that's actually dwelling within us? Is it some external being who's going to invade our body and then dwell within us? Or is it that there's this creative power throughout the universe that's in you and me and all living things? But when we make our heart a holy place, we become aware of it, and then we become sanctified and our lives become holy. So that is an important message for this week. Asuli mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham. And that's what I'd like to share with you. And I will spare you all the other details. If you want to see all those details, I don't necessarily recommend it, but go to the passage called TERUMAH. TERUMAH, again, a donation, which literally means to lift up, because when we give of ourselves to a good cause, we elevate ourselves and elevate the character and quality of our life. That's the message of TERUMAH. I'm interested in what you have to say about this or any of the exciting events that are going on in the world around us. Would anybody like to share some thoughts? Go ahead, Sharon.
So you started by talking about Shekhinah,
Right.
which I know when Carol sings a song, she has a song and she talks about Shekhinah. I guess because it starts with SCH, I think of it as a her.
Yeah.
Anyhow, it is Shekhinah, first of all, equivalent to the word God.
Yes.
Okay.
Shekhinah is one of many words for God, but they all have different nuances or variations, because obviously the
Okay.
concept of God is vast, but yes.
Okay. And the other thing is in the phrase that you talked about, Asuli Mikdash Shechiti Tacham, is Shechiti and Shekhinah, are they roots of each other? Is it?
Absolutely, yes. It's the same root. But it's
Okay.
v'shachanti. It's the same root, if I may.
Shechanti. Okay, I spelled it wrong.
Right.
Shechanti.
In Hebrew, most words, except for like prepositions and adjectives, consist of a three-letter root. In Hebrew, it's called a shoresh. The three-letter root is shin, kaf, nun. From shin, kaf, nun, you get mishkan. Many nouns are started by placing a mem in front of it. So place the mem in front of shin, kaf, nun, and you get mishkan. The dot goes in the kuf, and you got mishkan. Take the dot out, you have the same three-letter root, shin, kaf, nun, add a at the end of it, and you got shekhinah. The dot comes out, But if you're a Hebrew speaker, a native speaker, you don't notice, oh, it's Mishkan and Shechina. One's a ch and one's a k. You don't think in those terms. It's the same root, it's the same word, it's the same thing. We think of it, well, that doesn't sound very similar. Shechina and Mishkan, they sound very different. But if your brain is wired for Hebrew, Mishkan and Shechina sound almost identical. The roots are the same. And so Mishkan is the sanctuary. Shechina is a word for God. Each nuance has there's a little different nuance to it. Shechina really means a presence. It's a presence or a spiritual essence is what Shechina means. And God is received in this case as a spiritual essence or spiritual energy, you could say. As opposed to Yahweh. Yahweh's the opposite. He's like a commanding, sometimes barbaric, sometimes powerful, violent God. You don't want to mess with him. You don't want to mess with Yahweh. If you cross him and do the wrong thing, you're history. And he doesn't waste any time about rubbing people out. Shekhinah would never do that. Shekhinah is just a divine, loving spirit or presence within everything.
And
Good question.
Shechanti, by
Shechanti is the
adding the
same
T,
root.
so by adding the T at
Very
the
good.
end,
Yes.
that becomes your place.
I. That's very good. Yes. So in Hebrew, there's a word ochel, meaning food or to eat. Ochel. If you want to say the past tense, achalti, I ate. Lidaber, to speak. Dibalti, I spoke. When you put T at the end, it's the past tense. All right. So I played. Sichakti. You had the T. If you want to say you would say dibalta. You spoke. Dabal, he spoke. Dabalnu, we spoke. Dabru, they spoke. So shachanti means I spoke. Now to make it very confusing, in biblical Hebrew, if you put a v in front of the verb, it switches the tense from past to future or future to past. Very peculiar. That's biblical Hebrew. In the last 3,000 years, they kind of got past that one and they don't do that anymore. So shachanti means I dwelled. I dwelled. V'shachanti means and I will dwell among you. Now, if you look it up in the Bible, it'll say, construct me a tabernacle and I will dwell among you. But I like, make your heart a tabernacle and I will dwell within you, not among. Within you, there will be a spirit, the Shekinah. And I would take it one step further to say that within all of us, there already is a Shekinah. It's not like all of a sudden it's out there and then it comes inside. The Shekinah, this powerful creative essence that is the same within us and all living things, it's already in us, but there's so much clutter, all these bad vibes going on, anger and hostility and greed and stuff that it's all buried under. But if you cleanse it all out and create a holy place, suddenly the essence, our pure essence, emerges and then it dwells within us. And you can say, and it dwells within us, and then it will also dwell among us. Anybody else have any questions or comments they'd like to share?
I think that's a beautiful explanation of it. I really, that's a powerful explanation. I think it's almost like the essence of what you believe in. I know, Rabbi, and I think it's the essence of what we're trying to build at Va-Dor. So I think
absolutely, I agree with you. And also that essence is made manifest when you go among others who are trying to achieve the same thing and sharing positive vibes and good thoughts. You're kind of like helping other people recognize, oh yeah, I see that in that person, and I see it in me, and I see it in all of us. And this essence, this holy essence, literally dwells among us. And you can see that when you're not doing that, and you're arguing and fighting, then you're far from that essence. And so we're able to do it together. Sometimes it's hard on our own, but we're able to accomplish that because yes, it is a powerful message, and it really is the essence of what Va-Dor is all about and trying to achieve spirituality. But it's also actually a very important message in Orthodox Judaism. The Orthodox speak very much of the Shekhinah. It's a very powerful image for them also, the Shekhinah. And it's also powerful in Kabbalah. Kabbalah speaks of the Shekhinah, or the spiritual essence. And in order to believe in that, you don't have to believe in anything supernatural or irrational. I mean, it's completely obvious and provable that there's a creative power within all of us, and it's been going on for a long time, and it's within us, and we can tap into it. And when we do that, we become holy. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world today, but I think it might be nice just to leave it at this, because I think we're on a positive message.
Rachel has her hand up.
Go ahead, Rachel.
Oh no, I was just going to ask you. I remember those words from Kabbalah.
Yes.
You said it at the same time.
Yeah, Kabbalah is a very interesting approach to Judaism.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's so interesting.
Kabbalah literally means receiving. Likabel is to receive. Now I'm going to test you. How would you say I received? Kabalti. Remember, you had T. So Kabalti means I received. Kabbalah is the noun form, that which is received. So Kabbalah has many spiritual lessons and speaks in very ephemeral tones. I resonate with Kabbalah because it talks about a spiritual essence, but I draw a sharp distinction from Kabbalah in that they believe that the Torah was divinely written, and every letter and every word of it has secret messages that were implanted there by the divine. And if you study long enough and give them enough money over the years, you can find out what those messages are. I find that rather occult-like. But there are people who do Kabbalah, or Kabbalah as it's often called, who don't do that. You can find them like doing it out of their backyard or something like that, or you get a book on it. But I would caution you to, some of these places have very big buildings and they do a lot of things to try to make you think that there's some kind of mystical secret language.
No. Temple Bethel brought in a cantor from Australia, and he was studying Nachman. And so he was teaching, Tuesday night class about Kabbalah at Temple Bethel. That's how I got into it.
Yeah, I think it would be nice to do that at Va-Dor too, and I'd like to share my thoughts on Kabbalah.
And there is a book, Kabbalah for Dummies, and he was flipping through it, looking at the definitions. He said, "Could you make copies of these for the class?" But it's so interesting. I don't know, it's just intriguing.
It is. The imagery of Kabbalah holds up certain ideals like power and glory and beauty and truth, and they hold up these ideals, which I'm all for. I could just do without the mysticism. A cardinal principle of Kabbalah, which goes in keeping with the fact that God wrote the Torah and every word of it is true, which means that they're now justifying genocide and all the rest of it, is they have another motto or another, I guess, tenet of Kabbalah, which is similar to Orthodoxy. It goes in Hebrew like this: Gam ze le tova. Gam means also, ze is this, le tova, I think you know tova, for good. This too is for the good. And what that means is, according to Kabbalah, everything that happens, all of it, was meant to be. It's all part of God's plan, and it's all good. Gam ze le tova. And there's a story about the Rabbi Akiba. He's walking by the temple shortly after, like a couple of decades after it was destroyed, and he starts laughing. And they go, "How can you laugh? Our temple is in ruins." He says, "Gam ze le tova." That too is for the good. And they say, "How could that possibly be for the good?" He says, "Well, when the temple was destroyed, we got scattered, and now we can share Judaism with other folks." And then he was later martyred, and he said, "Gam ze le tova." And then you have people who, after the Holocaust, who are influenced by this Kabbalah who say everything that happens is God's will. Gam zeh l'tovah, that was for the good too, because that led to the state of Israel, which to a Holocaust survivor is a rather obscene thing to say. So that type of philosophy carried to an extreme means, well, why bother doing anything to change anything? Because hey, it's all part of God's will, and whatever happens, it's good. No matter what, even if you can say that the Holocaust and the destruction of the temple is good, it's hard to imagine, well, what could be bad? So just go with the flow and don't worry about it.
Yeah,
But,
this cantor rejected that.
well, that's good. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
and
it.
there was somebody
Yeah.
who had gone to Chabad, learning Kabbalah at Chabad, and she brought this up, and even I was horrified that it explained why a baby dies. And he just, right in the classroom, said, no, this is not what we're teaching here.
Well, that's good, because then
Yeah.
that they've deviated from the official doctrine of Kabbalah. Anyway, it's all it is. Kabbalah has a lot to offer. It's very good, especially if it's approached rationally and you
Rationally.
use these as ideals. Absolutely.